Now, on the football front, it was a mixed weekend. The sixth round of the FA Cup and the English Premier League were running simultaneously, and we're joined now by John Giles to see what he thinks of what were, in fact, some very interesting games. John, the FA Cup is really diminished now compared to what it used to be, one of the great prizes in the game. Nevertheless, at the weekend, there were some interesting matches. Everton, Manchester City, I want to start with that, and Leicester, Manchester United, again, was a very interesting game. Everton at home, Manchester City, I watched it. I thought it took City a long time. I think it was 84 minutes before Gundogan gave them the lead, and De Bruyne scored late on, I think, in the last minute of normal time. Everton did a good job, and I mean, Carlo Ancelotti, one of the great men of football, as a player, as a coach, he's won everything, and he's a marvellous and much respected and liked man. After the game, he described Manchester City, said no shame in losing to them. They're the best team in the world. There was a little smile on his face, but I think it was a genuine nod, if you like, to Pep Guardiola and the rebuilding of City. But Everton, the way he set them up was very clever, and they held out for a very long time.
Yeah, they're always dangerous, Everton.
Yeah.
With the big lad up front.
Calvert-Lewin, yeah.
Yeah, very, very good. Really, really top-class player.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the game too much, Emma. I thought it was a bit dull, but however, it was a big game for both of the teams. And as you say, City finished it off well. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It took the two goals well very late on in the game.
Yeah.
But Everton didn't look like scoring.
No.
I think that's the big thing with City this year, particularly in relation to other years, where, in that match they might have won 3-1 or 3-2 with giving chances away. It's not happening like that at the moment for City. And I think what's happening with them too, they've got a big squad, Eamon, compared to the other
huge
teams,
Yeah, they have.
And I think they're lucky with injuries as well, so far, anyway, that they can change the players that are coming in, and they probably have, a good panel of, say, 16, 17, 18 players.
Yeah. And
at the moment, as we know, with the amount of football that's being played, the top teams need that, and some of them don't have it in numbers. So it was a big win for them in a cup match.
Yeah, and just in terms of their squad, John, they were able to leave on the bench John Stones, Aguero, João Cancelo, who I think we both think is a really very good player. They signed one of their very best signings. I want to ask you about one player in particular who he scored 12 goals in the Premier League this year, and he scored the first goal, and a vital goal it was on Saturday against Everton. That's Gundogan, Turkish player. I don't think you think he's much of a player. I don't think he's much of a player. However, he has one gift, and he's always had it, even when he played in Germany, of popping up in the box for a midfield player and sticking away the chance when it comes. And that was the case on Saturday as well.
Yeah, a good gift, Damon.
Yes.
I mean, I must be honest now, he's winning me around in relation to where I felt about him 3 or 4 months ago, Eamon. Because I saw him as a midfield player, right? And he used to, not I wouldn't say annoy me, but he didn't get on the ball. And when he got on the ball in the middle of the field, I didn't think he was looking forward. He was passing it sideways and that. And of course, then he started scoring the goals.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yeah.
So I didn't see him as a goal-scoring midfield player. I saw him as a midfield player.
Yes.
And I thought, come on, I didn't rate him.
Yeah.
But as you say, he scored 10, 11 goals this year.
He scored 12 in the Premier League, and he scored a few in the Cup, and I think he scored a couple in the Champions League as well. The point, I suppose, that's really significant about Manchester City at the moment, with Aguero really looking like it's the end of the line, and he's been such a great player. They don't have an out-and-out regular goal scorer, 20 goals. Say Harry Kane. Harry's scored 27 goals now this season in all competitions. City don't have that, but what they do have is a monopoly on the ball, and they wear teams down. I'm not mad about watching them either, to be honest with you, a lot of the time, because it's tippy-tappy football, and their opponents are chasing shadows most of the time. Eventually, they break them down. I know you're fonder of that, but there's something unexciting about them.
I don't find them unexciting. I mean, what's exciting? What is it? Getting it over the big fella going for it?
No, two teams attacking each other.
They don't give the ball away. I mean, no. I know you're not keen on, and I'm surprised at that, because you were a creative midfield player yourself. And, I mean, here's a team playing it from the back, playing it out, not just stupidly, but playing it out and playing it well. Yeah. I mean, there are times where you'd say, come on, get on a little bit. But, I mean, this year, as you say, they don't have Aguero scoring the goals. Anybody scoring outstanding. No. But David Silva comes in with a goal.
Bernardo Silva
comes in with a goal.
Mahrez
is coming in with a few goals.
Yeah.
The young lad can come in with a few goals.
Yeah,
so sometimes you're better off doing that than having one scoring, and you're depending on them all the time now. But that's the way they are. But what the biggest thing with them is they've tightened up at the back.
Yes.
There's no doubt. Stones is playing now like he was when the promising player he looked at Everton.
Yeah.
He's actually playing very well. And Diaz, that they brought in, actually has done. He looks a real centre half.
Yes.
So in that case, I think the big thing is they're not conceding goals.
Altogether in 30 games, they've conceded 21 goals, which is actually very, very good. But in their case, it's a dramatic improvement on what they had before. And the relevance of this may be when they get to the Champions League, and the way the Champions League draw has worked out, they may well face Bayern Munich in the semi-final. And that's where I always felt, when people started talking about City winning the Champions League, I always felt that their defence was so weak, and that the good teams, the really top teams in Europe, would score goals against them. And that was a vulnerability. And now it's not so much a vulnerability, which means they have a chance of winning the Champions League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup, which used to be the old League Cup. It's the quadruple. Guardiola says it's not possible, but it clearly is possible. Although I don't think they'll win the Champions League, but I'm more important. It's more important we find out what you think, John.
Well, I think they've got a chance of doing it. I think Guardiola's right to play it down, Eamon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge thing to think they're going to win 4 trophies, especially with all the matches they have. I mean, they're more equipped than anybody else because of the squad that they have.
Yeah.
With the players that they have. I mean, Manchester United have a huge squad, but they're not managed in a way, in my opinion, anyway. But that's getting off the. No, I think they might do it, but I think if you win 2 trophies, I mean, particularly if you're winning the Premiership. I think the Premiership is the hardest to win.
Yes.
Because you're playing week in, week out. Now, they're way ahead in that, but there's a chance of doing it. But I think he's right to play it down.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if he wins 2 if he wins the Premiership and one other trophy, it's really, really, really good.
Now, I want to ask about a couple of players. Jesus, I don't think he's trained on. I don't think he's improved since he's been at City. He's not getting the goals. I don't see him getting in the box and really being hungry to score the goals. So he's a player who I thought at first he looked very lively, very quick, sharp in the box. I don't see him now as a top player.
Well, I wouldn't agree with you entirely on it. I mean, I don't think he's come on as much as I would think most people that expect him to. But how many goals he scored this year, Eamon?
He hasn't scored many, John, but he was out with with injuries early in the season. Yeah, so
I wouldn't give up on him, man. I would agree with you. I would have expected more from him.
Foden,
but I wouldn't give up on him yet. He's still quite young, you know.
Yeah, this lad Foden. He gets a lot of mentions. People talk about him should be automatic for the England team. He's in and out. He does score a goal. He makes goals. He looks a useful player. It's hard to say yet how far he can go in the game.
Yeah, I think he's more than useful, Eamon.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's only 20.
Yeah.
And he's definitely capable of scoring goals. He's very good with his left foot. But he's one of the few players now, when you see even forward players, who can take players on, Eamon, and beat them. You know, he can go past players.
Yeah.
He can do that, and I think he'll get better and better in that City team. I think he's one of the really, really promising lads. Okay,
let's move on, John. And just in passing to say what a gentleman Ancelotti is. You know, they embraced he and Guardiola after the match. None of that old Mourinho stuff, or even that Ferguson stuff, you know, of mind games and all that nonsense. It really isn't like that. These are two top coaches in European football, have been for a very long time, respect each other, and there's none of that old stuff about mind games.
No need for it, Eamon, to be honest. You know, I never went for those mind games at all. I mean, a manager gets on with it like Ancelotti. Hasn't stopped them winning trophies.
No.
You know, I mean, to be fair to Guardiola, he doesn't do it either. You know, but it's usually people like Mourinho's case at the moment. It's making excuses, Eamon.
Yep.
You know,
every week.
I watched him at the weekend. They did get a win at Villa, but he's like last week when they were beaten away in the Champions League. It was terrible.
It was a bad beating, John. By a pretty ordinary team.
Yeah, it was awful. An awful result timing for him. But he was sort of saying, well, we're in it together, and it's as much my fault as the players' fault. But it ultimately came out it was the players' fault.
Yeah.
You know, and he's done it before, Eamon, you know, and like he's as you say, with Ancelotti and that, you know, you don't have to behave in that way, you know, calling yourself the best and all that carry on.
Now,
just get on with the job and do your stuff.
Now, a match we both watched yesterday, and we talked during the match, Leicester, Manchester United. Leicester killed them, really. A very, very good performance without a couple of big players, Barnes and Maddison. Justin, another very good player. There's a couple of others as well. Ricardo, who's a very, very good player and has had a lot of injuries. Brendan Rodgers is a very good coach, John. Everywhere he's been, he's done good work. He gives young players chances. His teams play football. I think very highly of him.
Yeah, he's a good lad, Eamon.
Yeah.
I mean, you never see him getting into any trouble or controversies.
No, he's a bit fond of himself. But he's a bit fond of himself.
Well,
he's allowed to be that. He's a good coach.
We'll give him that, Eamon. So,
yeah.
But there's no harm, and he's never having a go at the opposition. He never blames his own players.
No.
You know, there's no controversy surrounding him. He just gets on with the job. And again, seems to be a nice type of lad. He's got respect for the opposition. He's got respect for the game. And he's successful. I mean, they have been very good since he went to Leicester. But they're getting better, Eamon, which is great. You know, it's a good sign. Really, really good. He hasn't spent a lot of money, and they totally outplayed Manchester United.
Yeah.
Now, Manchester United were as bad as Spurs were last week, Eamon.
Yeah, I must say,
really bad.
My column for the Star this week, I described them as a disgrace yesterday. And I felt very strongly when I watched some of the performances. I thought Pogba was outrageous. He was strutting around the place, really outrageous. And he wasn't by any means the only one. Fred had a nightmare, but in Fred's case, I don't think it was arrogance. I think he was probably trying too hard, but he gave the first goal away and really played pretty poorly. The situation with Van de Beek, John, 40 million they paid for him. They never. Solskjaer doesn't start him in any of the really important games. Started at the weekend. It looks like Solskjaer doesn't really rate him and doesn't really want him in the team. So you have to wonder who bought him.
I don't think Solskjaer is in charge of that, to be honest. I don't think he's in charge of the buying and selling. There's, I saw a thing where they've employed 2 other people now to report to Woodward. I don't think Solskjaer's in charge of it. I really don't. And Van de Beek's case, I think we've spoken about it before. I think he's in his play, he's very like Fernandes.
Yes.
Not as good.
Yes.
And you can't have 2 people of the same. It's like having two left backs, with 2 good left feet, but can't play anywhere else.
Yes.
And I find that with him, he can't, he's not going to get in the team along with Fernandes. So when is he going to get in the team? And I think the lad, he looks a very, very nice type of lad, I think it's ruining his confidence as well.
Yes. Yeah.
He's only coming on now and again. He's trying to prove himself. And I think if you're going to spend 40 million, you've got to get it in another player that's going to balance the team along with Fernandes. Not 2 of the same. That's just bad buying.
Now,
and I don't think Solskjaer is doing. I don't think he leads them, Eamon.
No.
Like yesterday, just on the papers today, he said he were tired yesterday and all that. Well, he's got a big squad of players, Eamon, and he left 3 players out that didn't play during the week.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be tired. If they're tired, they've got to go and play and get in and do what's needed to be done. But I don't think he leads them in that way. I don't think they're scared of him.
No.
And that's it. It doesn't do it in the way that a manager should be doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would forgive him the tiredness remark. We've seen teams, John, this year. Liverpool would be an example. Manchester City, indeed, earlier in the season, and even in more recent games, players are tired. They've had no pre-season. It's been non-stop football. There's an awful lot of muscle injuries, soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, calf, muscle pulls. The players, I think, are really tired. It isn't, though, in the case with Pogba, who hasn't played very much football and he's strutting around there. It's just, I put it to you this way, John. The way United played yesterday, I couldn't ever envisage an Alex Ferguson team. And remember, we're talking about Manchester United, which is the biggest club in the world in many ways. I could never imagine an Alex Ferguson team going out and not performing the way they didn't perform yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. But Solskjaer saying today in the papers, they were tired. Well, all the players are tired, and I agree with what you say, which is we all know the matches that they're playing. It's most unusual, and that's the way it has to be. And of course, players are tired. But he left 3 players out yesterday, 3 of the main players out yesterday.
Yeah,
to put lads in that didn't play during the week.
Yeah,
and when you see tired players, like when you see a player, who doesn't get back or make an effort to get back, right? Then that's not tiredness. What you see with tiredness is a player making the effort to get back,
but not being able to get there. Yeah.
Then you say, God, they're tired. But he's making the real effort. That wasn't there with Manchester United yesterday. He said with one of the goals, there was 6 red shirts back.
Yeah.
For one of the goals.
Well,
nobody making an effort to get at it.
Tielemans' goal, the second goal, he ran past 5 Manchester United players. It was really, really, really outrageous. Let's move on, John, to West Ham and Arsenal. 3-0 up West Ham after half an hour. And I was happy for David Moyes. I think he's one of those people that is such a good football man and deserves respect for the jobs he did at Everton in particular over a very long period of time. He's done a good job at West Ham, John. They're 5th in the table, which is wonderful. Now, Arsenal did fight back and they got an equaliser with 7 or 8 minutes to go. Lacazette with a very good header. You get the feeling David Moyes has got rid of some of the chances that were at West Ham, and he's got real grafters in now into the side. Souček is one example. Dawson, who is playing in the Championship for Hull, is a very good centre-half.
Yeah.
Aaron Cresswell, the left-back's been there. He's given Lingard a boost of confidence, and Lingard scoring a lot of goals, John. So, for him. So that was a good buy. He's a good man, David Moyes, isn't he? And the Manchester United experience must have been pretty devastating for him.
Yeah, well, obviously was. I mean, I think he wasn't fit. He wasn't fit for that job, really. I mean, anyway, but I mean, what he did at Everton and what he's done at West Ham, is unbelievable, because they've always known the soft touches, inconsistent, and he's got a work ethic there that you can actually see on the pitch, which is very, very good. But I'd say he wouldn't be pleased yesterday, like no manager would be pleased. You got 3 in front of him and then you finish up maybe losing the game. It was that type of game. There were chances at both ends, really, which hasn't been the case at West Ham this season, where they've been very, very solid. And I think it shows you where Arsenal are as well, Eamon. They can be very good, and they're not there yet. But I think he is improving them, and I think they will get better. But in West Ham's case, I think he'd be raging afterwards that they didn't actually win the game.
Get the job done.
When you get three in front and get it done. But it was a really good game to watch. There's some very, very, very good goals in it. But Lingard is a lad now, Eamon, who, I mean, obviously they've blown him out at Old Trafford, and he never really fulfilled his potential.
No.
But maybe now that this has happened to him, I mean, he looked like a kid to me, where he was always dancing and doing stupid stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think now that he's got this kick up the backside at Manchester United, I think he's 28 now.
Yeah.
I think he realised, I've got to buckle down here and really put my mind to this job. And there's talk about him getting back in the England team, which is quite right, because he's done very well since he's gone to West Ham, and he can't play. So he might well get a bit of sense now, Eamon, and make the most of what he's got.
Just in terms of the England team, by the way, Trent Alexander-Arnold left out by Gareth Southgate, and it's caused a lot of comment. What do you think of it?
Well, I've never been a big fan of Alexander, Eamon, as a fullback.
Yeah,
I don't think he can defend. I think he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant going forward, as he did with Liverpool last week, actually making goals.
Yes.
Right? But I think you have, my take on football is, I want to see a defender, a fullback defending. That's what I take him. Does he defend well? Does he?
Yes.
And if he's good going forward,
that's a bonus.
That's a bonus. But definitely defending. And there's a few fullbacks, actually, that he's listed, Southgate. I think there's 4 lads in right fullbacks in the squad, and that's without Ayala. Is that Ayala? You know the lad at Leeds.
At Leeds, yeah.
I think he's the best of them.
I know. Yeah, we'll come to Leeds. In fact, we're coming to them. Now, they went to Fulham, who I think, despite their league position, the third from bottom and in the relegation hole at the moment, but Newcastle are coming at them fast. Fulham Leeds, I thought Fulham would beat them because they're a good side. But you rang me after 5 minutes, or I rang you after 5 minutes to see what your take on it was, and you said Leeds are up for it. They're going to win more or less. You said no guarantees. Of course, Patrick Bamford scored the first goal, and this fella Rafinha, who I really like, is a very good player. He scored the second goal. Or the winner, in fact, because Fulham did equalise. Leeds were up for it, John, and you can usually tell early on. Yeah,
after 10 minutes, Eamon.
Yeah.
They're either up for it. I mean, I think they played there a couple of weeks ago against Villa at Leeds.
Yes.
And they were terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I said, like we talk about the matches. Give me 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah. After 10 minutes with Leeds, you can tell they're up for it.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're up for it, they have a good chance of winning, Eamon. Because they made Fulham look poor.
Yes.
And Fulham haven't been poor in recent matches. They played well in recent matches. Yeah. And they really played them off the pitch. I know they only won 2-1, but they really played them off the pitch in the match. And that's the way they are. I mean, they're going to be, actually, I said at the start of the season, they'll be the type of team, when you expect them to win, they lose. And when you expect them to lose, they win. But when they're playing well, they're good.
Yep.
And they were good. I mean, they played Fulham off the pitch at the weekend. There's no doubt about that. And that's the way they're going to be, Eamon. They're going to be like that for the end of the season. They'll win matches you don't expect them to win. They'll lose matches you don't expect them to lose.
Okay.
That's it.
Now,
but it good to watch.
Yeah, mad to watch. And this fella Ayling, you think, is a very good player, and he is a very good player, and he's come up through the Championship with Leeds. Chelsea, you like Thomas Tuchel? You think he's done well since he's been there? They're certainly not giving many goals away, but they're not scoring many goals either.
No.
What do you like about him?
Well, I think I'll tell you what, you judge a manager who comes in, Eamon. Really, when they're going to do well, in my opinion, they don't lose goals. They stop losing goals.
Yes.
Right.
That's the starting point. Football,
yes. Yeah, I think in football, Eamon, you can teach teams how to defend.
Yeah.
You can't teach them how to score goals. You can't teach a goal scorer how to score goals. You can get the team playing well and get them in a position where they make chances for them, and then they've got to take them. But you can definitely do something about defending.
Yes.
Definitely, because I know people might be bored listening to me, but defending is, with managers coming into a club, things you can do something about, Eamon, in training.
Yes.
You know you've got throw-ins for you, you've got throw-ins against you. Free kicks outside the box, for and against. Corner kicks, for and against. So you can do things about that on the training pitch.
Yes.
You can organise players. You can organise players to defend.
Yeah.
You can't organise them to score.
No.
It's a gift. It's a gift that players have to be able to get into position. Nobody can teach them how to do it.
It's spontaneous as well.
Spontaneous. It's instinctive, Eamon, to do it. So I like what he's done. I think he's only conceded 2 goals since he's got there.
Yeah.
Since he's gone to Chelsea. And they have players of talent who are front players.
Yes.
Who haven't done it for them yet.
Yes.
So now if they start doing it for them, and they are talented players.
Yeah, Pulisic would be one. Havertz, boy, they paid. He's only 20. He came from Germany for 71 million. He looks full of talent. It just hasn't all come together for him yet.
Yeah, but they could do, Eamon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there'd be an outside chance now for the Champions League.
Okay, well, I'm not quite sure. I think they.
An outside chance.
I think they'll be playing Liverpool. If Liverpool and they win their games, I think that's the way that particular.
Well, they'd be in with a good chance against Liverpool at the moment.
Right, I think.
I definitely think. In other words, I'm only looking at him as a manager. I think he did a big job at Paris Saint-Germain.
Yes.
When we watched him last year, Eamon. He had Neymar playing in a way that I hadn't seen him play. So I think he's one of those type of managers. He doesn't take any nonsense whatsoever.
No.
He expects a lot of the players. No favourites.
No.
And that's the way he is. And I think he'll do a good job at Chelsea. And I'd say they'd be an outsiders even for the Champions League, even this year.
And he's done one thing. He's put Kante back in the team, and Kante is back playing at his best, and that's reassuring because I think his first game as Chelsea coach Tuchel, I think he dropped Kante, but he's back in the team now, and I think both of us think very, very highly of him.
Yeah.
Now, John,
I think from the back, back to the middle, Eamon, they're going to be very, very good.
Okay.
Now, it's just a question now, does he get the forward players to score the goals that would be needed?
Yeah. And he's got people like Hudson-Odoi, Havertz, Mason Mount, who I think is a really, really good player. I really do think he's got a big future in the game. But he's not a prolific goal scorer. He gets goals and he gets spectacular goals. But he's a kind of midfield player. He's good on the ball. But we'll see. I want to talk to you now about something that I know affected both of us, you particularly, the death of Peter Lorimer, which was announced on Saturday, John. He was, of course, with you, a great colleague at Leeds. He played 705 games for Leeds and scored 238 goals.
Yeah.
He was someone I knew, and we had a great time together as your guest in Canada for 6 weeks. And he was a wonderful man, a delightful man, and a great, great footballer, John, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a terrific lad, Eamon. I mean, the goals he scored, I think he was underrated, despite the fact that, he got a lot of plaudits as well, because he wasn't actually spectacular, Eamon, in his general play.
Yes.
He played on the right wing. He wasn't really a right winger, you know. He was a midfield player originally.
Yeah.
And Don put him out in the right wing. And the way he played, I mean, obviously he scored some spectacular goals. I mean, hot shot Peter, as we know. But he made an awful lot of goals from the right wing.
Yes.
And why he wasn't regarded as spectacular, when he got the ball on the right wing, I mean, he wasn't very, very good at going past the fullbacks and beating them and turning them inside out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He only got to make half a yard, boom, and he was whipping them over with his right foot.
Yes.
You know, and in Leeds, like we had Alan Clark and Mick Jones, and it was so simple. It looked so simple from Peter because he had such a good right foot, along with the spectacular goals. But on the general play, didn't waltz past players, didn't beat 4 or 5 players before crossing. Just half a yard, didn't beat anybody.
No.
Whipped it over his right foot, and of course, hugely dangerous in that way. Plus the goals he scored.
And he. Strangely, he only played 26 or 23 times for Scotland, but there was always that thing in Scotland, wasn't there, about playing the homegrown players and the players who were playing in Scotland.
A few of them. Eddie suffered with it, Eddie Gray.
I think Alan Hansen may have suffered with it as well.
Oh, he played less.
Yeah.
They left him out the World Cup to 3 centre-halves.
Yeah.
But Dave Mackay only played 20-odd games.
Yeah, amazing.
You know, once they moved from Scotland, once they were playing in England, they were definitely biased. Eddie only played 25 matches for Scotland.
Yeah,
but Peter he was great. He was a great lad. On his playing side, I mean, there's a lot of players I played with. I'm sure you played with them as well, where they're having a shot from 40 yards.
Yeah.
And you say, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
But when I was playing with Peter, and Peter was 40 yards out, I'd be saying to myself, go on, Peter.
Have a go.
He could score from 40 yards, I mean.
Yeah.
And scored many goals from 40 yards. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes.
But his attitude was great. You knew him as a person.
I did, yeah.
And you would have got on well with him in Canada.
We did.
You both like the horses.
Yeah, we did.
Peter not just liked the horses, Eamon. He loved the horses.
I know he did, yeah.
And right. His attitude playing, what was perfect with Peter. In 1972, I mean, we won the cup and we played Wolves on the Monday to win the double.
That's right.
Right, and we drew. We didn't get the double.
Yeah.
Now, we were all broken up.
Yes.
Broken up.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with him on the couch coming back to this because Don had organised a little few drinks in the Queen's Hotel when we got back with the league trophy.
Yes.
Of course, when we got back to the Queen's or to Leeds, there was no sign that anybody was going into the Queen's.
Yes.
So I was just as bad as anybody else. And Peter says, are you coming in? I said, no, Peter, no. He says, come on. He said, look, if somebody told us at the start of the season we'd win the cup and we'd finish runners-up, would you have taken that? I said, yeah, definitely. He said, well, that's it. I'm going in, he said.
Yeah.
And I said, right. And I went in with him. I think there was 3. Eddie came in. I think there was 3 of us went in and had a few jars in the thing. Yeah. That was Peter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We
get on with it. We get on with it. Like that's life. That's life, and that's the way he was. Even when he didn't play well, we'd see him because Norman was a fanatic. I was a bit fanatical myself. We'd lose a match at Leeds, and Peter would be ready before anybody else, and he'd be up at the mirror, and he'd be whistling away.
Yeah,
out tonight.
Yeah,
and I'd be looking over at Norman. We didn't get on to him, you know what I mean? But that was Peter.
Yeah, he was I first met him, actually, when I was at Manchester United as an apprentice. He came to Manchester United to have a look whether he was... I think he was having a look at Manchester United, brought it the other way around. Because
he was a wonder boy, schoolboy.
He was, yeah. And he rejected United for some reason, went to Leeds. But when you were managing, coaching Vancouver Whitecaps... you very kindly invited us 6 of us to a holiday in Vancouver, and Peter, of course, Peter and I went to the races and that, and there was a general manager of Vancouver Whitecaps, a very nice man who had looked after us royally throughout our 6-week stay, and it was the last night, and we took him to the races. We took him as our guest. And before we started gambling, we put enough aside in cash so that we'd be able to pay for the dinner for, I think there was about 8 of us.
Yeah. Peter Bridgewater was his name.
Peter Bridgewater. Peter was delighted. He thought this was a lovely gesture. These guys are taking me to dinner for all I've done for them. What great guys. So through the night, we were having bad luck on the horses, and all the money was gone. And we had a tip. Peter had a connection in the training ranks in Vancouver, and he had a tip. So Peter and I went to Tim O'Connor, the late Tim O'Connor, head of sport in RTE, who was holding on to the money to pay for Peter Bridgewater's dinner. And we said, give us that money. We have a tip. And he said, no, that's the money for Peter Bridge. So we blackguarded him and hounded him. He took the money out of his pocket, he put it on the table. There you are, he says, it's on your head. So we put it on the horse. The horse got beaten a short head. And now we've no money to pay for Peter Bridgewater's dinner. So we had to go to Peter Bridgewater and say, would he mind paying for his own dinner? It was one of the funniest things I ever saw. I have to say, he took it like a gentleman.
He took it well, yeah.
He took it well, John. But that was a happy memory of a lovely, lovely man and a great footballer, the great Peter Lorimer. God rest him. And we hope he's in the big Cheltenham in the sky, Chief. A great man, and his record of 705 appearances, 238 goals, and I don't think as long as football is played, Peter Lorimer will ever be forgotten. That's all we have time for today, John. We're very grateful to you, of course, for talking to us, and we'll talk to you again next week. That's the great John Giles. Thanks to John. Thanks to you for listening, and of course a great and special thanks to our sponsors, Tesco, who someday I intend to take to dinner.
Don't take them to the races, Eamon.
But we won't be going racing. Okay, John. Talk to you soon.